Welcome to the One Question podcast, where we choose one fundamental question about human behavior and the mind and do our best to get to the bottom of it in a useful and practical way. I'm Bruno Mendo, your favorite expert on the mind, and I'll be your host for this podcast. Remember, this is for your entertainment, and nothing I say should be taken as a rule. The question for today is, how can I stop wanting someone that doesn't want me? How can we stop wanting someone that doesn't want us? This is the field of romantic relationships, one of the most sensitive fields, areas of our lives, not only because it's connected to who we are as a species, we all come from a romantic slash sexual relationship, and if we're going to stay here for a long time as a species, we're going to need to be involved in sexual and romantic relationships. So it's deeply connected to survival, to what we're doing on this planet from an evolutionary perspective. And that's why it's such an important area of most people's lives. More than that, it's a sensitive area because it's one of the main areas where we don't have that much control. Let me give you an example. If we talk about work and money, you know more or less the rules that govern that area of our lives. You know that if you're disciplined, reliable, competent, conscientious, you're probably going to be well off. You're going to have a job, you're going to make money. And then you know that if you develop some skills better, if you know how to lead better, communicate with other people better, well, you're going to progress in those areas related to work and money. It's a more or less mathematical and mechanical world. There are a series of formulas that if you follow, it's more or less predictable where you're going to end up. And so if you say, I want this job, I want to do this, and if you say that congruently, and you dedicate your time to developing the skills needed to do that, to developing the relationships, key relationships for that, the fact that you said, I want this, and that you did all this, is around 80%, 90% of the way to getting it. So we could say that in this area, work and money, you have an 80, 90 degree or percent, control over it. However, when we deal with sexual and romantic relationships, what is the percentage you think you have to getting what you want? In the field of romantic and sexual relationships, the most you get is 50% of control. You can control your side of things. You can become the best version you can be. You can communicate better. You can dress better. You can be sharp. You can get in shape. You can get a better job and career because that is something that is mostly under your control. But then, if the other person says no, you're done. With that person, of course. So it's a field where we have 50% control. Maybe it sometimes even feels like less than 50%. Because if someone says no, it doesn't matter if you say yes with 50%, it's still a no. The relationship will not move forward. And don't get me wrong, in business, there's also relationships. It's a world of relationships. Everything is people. However, in the field of work and money, people want more or less the same thing. Profit. To like what they do. To have money. In relationships, people are looking for many different things. And depending on the phase of their lives, they're looking for something completely different from what they were looking for a year before or months before. More than that, in this area of lives, sexual and romantic relationships, many people are clueless as to what they want. And so they're going to say one thing and want another. And so, of course, it's one of the areas of our lives in which we're most vulnerable because it doesn't depend on us as much. It still does, and you're going to understand that it does, but not as much. The further you'll get is 50%. Do you understand my point? So how can I stop wanting someone that doesn't want me? I could talk about this for days. However, I'm going to give you a couple pointers that I think are the most helpful so you can stop wanting someone faster. They're the beginning steps. The first thing we got to do is to distinguish what is under your control and what isn't. Ultimately, the choice of being with you, of giving you a shot, of going out on a date with you, it's under their control, not yours. It is actually completely out of your control. Because even if they did like you, they can still choose not to go on a date with you. They can still choose not to give you a chance. They can still choose not to talk to you. And that's always a choice that is up to them. It's completely out of your control. And this is the first realization you have to make. Because most of the pain connected to relationships has to do with this. We confuse ourselves into thinking that we are in control of other people's responses. That we can ultimately control if they're going to say yes or no. And we cannot. The most we can have is influence. But if we talk about influence, it's got a lot more to do with you than with them. What do I mean? You're going to have to speak a certain way, be in a certain state, manage your emotions a certain way, alter your behavior so you influence other people. But we're talking about things you do here, on your side of things. So influence is a process that depends on you. Of course, it's about them. It's about influencing them, but it starts with you. It's things you change in yourself to produce a different response out there. However, when you're trying to control the responses out there, then you're screwed. Because you're going to be frustrated, agitated, anxious, sad, depressed, because you cannot do that. You simply cannot. So that's the first step, is understanding that choosing to go out on a date with you, choosing to be with you, even if they wanted to, even if they felt like you were nice, they might still choose not to do that, and that is under their control. What is under your control in this situation is that you can improve your chances by developing your best self, developing emotional and mental freedom, because that's attractive. Because when you're trying to control other people, it shows. People can feel that. People will feel that you're after a certain response, that you're uncomfortable because they did something that was not what you expected. And when they feel this, when they feel like they're being controlled, like someone is trying to control them, they're going to be repelled by you, not attracted. So you're doing the opposite of what you want to do. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but that's what's happening if you're trying to control other people. And that even happens in a different way. Because when you cannot control what they do and they give you a response you don't like, maybe the response wasn't definitive. So maybe they said no, but they were just testing you. And when they see that you're so frustrated and agitated because you wanted to control that response and it wasn't the response you wanted, they're going to be more repulsed by you, because people generally don't want to be around depressed, anxious people. And the more you show that side of you, the less you're being yourself. You're being controlled by your emotions. You're being a victim of what happens outside of you, and that's not attractive. When what concerns them wanting to be with you or choosing to be with you, that's out of your control. What is under your control is improving who you are so that they more likely want to be with you, but still you cannot control the other side. You simply cannot. And then we move on to what we can control. Well, we can control the way we eat, how much we exercise, if we are attractive to the opposite sex, how much we work so we get the money to improve our lives, what's the condition of our lives, how do we manage our past, are we emotionally and mentally free? Well, if you're here, you're training to be. And those are all things we can control. And what you can control, much like them, is if you're going to be with them or not. And so we get to today's question. How can I stop wanting someone that doesn't want me? The part of doesn't want me is up to them. As we've just discussed, that's in their hands, not in yours. What is up to you is How can I stop wanting? And that's the real question you're asking. How can I stop wanting someone? Because that's a decision you make. This is a very important point because many people say they want to stop wanting someone, but really, they haven't decided yet. They're always basing their responses on what the other person's doing, and what you're doing is being controlled by another person. So what should be under your control is controlled by someone else. What do I mean by this? Well, imagine you tell me you want to stop wanting someone, but then the moment they smile at you once, you're back at where you started, and you want them again because it seems like you have a shot. And as long as you're dependent on the little changes of behavior on the other side to make your own change, which is, I want to stop wanting them, you're never going to be able to make it. Because on the other side, many things can happen. Number one, the other person may actually be nice and mature. And what can happen is that they tell you, well, I'm not interested, thank you, not sexually. But then they treat you well, they smile at you, they interact with you as if you were a friend, because that's what you were before, maybe. And if they do that, maybe you start thinking, maybe they like me, maybe I have a shot. Another case may be that on the other side, so the person that supposedly doesn't want you or that you want to stop wanting, they may be insecure and they may need validation. And what may happen is that they reject you, but once they start feeling that you're detached from them, they miss that validation. The validation that you give them when you pay attention to them, when you give them compliments, when you show your interest. And when they stop feeling that validation, and let me be clear, they do this unconsciously, they're not aware that they're doing this most times, they're going to try to get you back just to know that you're still there. And this is another thing that can happen. And if they do that, the moment they do this, if you haven't decided for yourself that you want to stop wanting them, well, then you're going to fall in their trap once again. Because you wanted to stop wanting them just because they were showing they didn't want you. But now they show that they want you and you want them again. When you make a decision, you cannot be in the middle. You cannot be waiting for them to change the next moment. If you made a decision, you stick to your decision. If you want to change your decision in the future, you change it completely. You're not going to be in the middle. That's the first step, or the second if you want. You're not going to be in the middle, thinking that you want to stop wanting them, but the moment they give you a sign of interest, once again you want them, and then you don't want them again, and then you want them again. That's not a place to be. In each moment, you're going to be in either one side of things or the other. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you're in the middle of a decision without making a real decision, you're going to go mad. You're going to go crazy. You're not going to achieve what you really want to achieve. Because really, you don't want to achieve anything. You don't want to decide. You want to stay in the middle. That doesn't work. So you decide that you want to stop wanting them because you've realized, after being in this middle ground of wanting and not wanting because you're trying to see if they want you, but the moment you decide you don't want them because you realize that they're playing with you or that they really don't want you, well, then that's the decision. That's the one you move forward with. And that's the presupposition from which I'm going to move now. I'm going to assume you want to stop wanting them, really. So you're no longer looking for signs of interest. You decided that you want to stop wanting them. That's it. So step one, what do you control and what you don't control? Improve yourself so that you can get the people you want. But remember, you're never going to have the power to decide that. They have that power as long as you depend on them to have a relationship. And you do, because that's what a relationship is all about. That's what makes it magical. So that's the first step. The second step is decide. Do not be in the middle. When you decide you don't want them, you're not expecting signs that they're interested or not interested. You've already decided. That's gone. If you want to change your decision, you'll do it in the future, but do not be in the middle. And now let's move on. Step number 3. The mentality you're going to adopt comes from Diogenes, a philosopher from the time of Alexander the Great. And he said something that is going to be the main idea I want you to have in your mind. It would be stupid to want someone that doesn't want me. I'm going to repeat this. It would be stupid to want someone that doesn't want me. And you can repeat this as a mantra, but I'm going to explore this a bit further so you understand how deep this sentence really is. Imagine you're in a relationship with this person. They don't want to be with you. You know that they don't want you, but let's imagine you get into a relationship with them. You managed to get into a relationship with them because you wanted it so much. And now let's imagine that every day you're with them and you're having dinner with them and you know that that person doesn't want you. They don't want to be with you. They're thinking about being with other people. They're thinking about having dinner with their friends. They're with you because you take them to nice places or because they enjoy the food you're having, but they don't want to be with you. They would much rather be with other people. Now imagine that every day, every night, you're having dinner with this person, knowing that before they get there, they're thinking, here I go. Like this, with this expression. If you're not seeing the video, make sure you go to YouTube or Rumble and you watch my face, the face that I'm making, which is a bit of a contempt face. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Boredom, frustration to go be with you. Imagine that they're thinking this, they're feeling this before going to meet with you. During dinner, that's what they're feeling. So while you're all excited to be with them, they're feeling this. I want you to imagine that. Imagine having sex with this person, sharing your most intimate secrets and your body, your emotions. And let's continue with the example of the sex. And imagine that they're thinking of another person every time. They're thinking of a friend of yours that they wanted to have, but they think they can't have them. And so they just settle for you. So once again, they don't want to be there. They don't want you. They just want the pleasure you're giving them, imagining you're someone else. Now really put yourself in these situations, please. Having dinner every day with someone that doesn't want to be with you. Having sex with someone that's thinking of another person. Who's thinking of another person? Every moment. They're thinking of breaking up, but they don't have the courage. They have written many letters to break up with you, but they didn't have the courage to deliver them to you. But they want to. They're always thinking about it. They're always thinking how their life would be much better with another person. They're desiring another person. Okay, that's enough. Would you want to be with this person? Would you want this relationship I just described? You don't. If you're honest with yourself, if you have a bit of self-respect, of self-esteem, and we can talk about what self-esteem is, it doesn't matter if you're honest with yourself, you don't want that relationship. Even if it is with a person that you think you want or that your body desires, if you think about this really, as I just told you, you wouldn't want to be with that person. You wouldn't want to be in that relationship. And so what we're really saying is that when you think about it, you don't want to be with that person. So from the beginning, the initial question, how can I stop wanting to be with someone that doesn't want to be with me? This is the answer. You don't. You wouldn't want to be with this person. And now listen to this. I'm going to tell you something that's very important for all that we're covering here today. I heard this from a psychotherapist, a colleague of mine. I don't remember who it was. I love to cite my sources. I always do. I just simply don't remember who it was. However, what they said was, your emotions are slower than your thoughts. And I don't care about the scientific accuracy of this statement because I'm pretty sure you're going to have experienced this in your relationships, in this very intimate area of our lives. And what they mean by this is when you decide consciously, your mind decides that you don't want to be with this person, just like we now decided, realized, your emotions are not going to change as quickly. They're still going to want that person. Because these emotions of desire, lust, love even, they're very deep emotions. And because of that, deep or intense, however you want to call them, what matters is they don't change usually like this. However, your thoughts might. By listening to me in this podcast, maybe your thoughts are changing. You're getting more mental freedom. However, when it comes to these types of relationships, love, romantic relationships, your emotions take a bit longer to adapt. And so, what you need to do is to direct your mind enough times, think about this enough times, and know that your emotions are not going to change as quickly. They're still going to want that person, but your mind needs to lead the way. And after a while, I promise you, if you do this for enough times, your emotions are going to change. You're not going to feel the same wanting to be with them. And you're going to stop wanting them. But the first stop has to be in your mind. That's where it begins. And you need to have the discipline to repeat this. Listen to this podcast more times to repeat the thought process we're going through so that then your emotions can follow. Always remember this. It's not going to be immediate. You're going to tell me, Bruno, I understand what you're saying, but I'm still feeling. Of course you're still feeling. The emotions, the feelings in this case, take a bit longer to change. However, it all starts with your mind. So you don't want someone that doesn't want you. You just don't. It would be stupid. You don't want to be a second choice for anyone. Do you? Well, if you do, I'm not talking to you then. But I don't. I sure as hell don't. Let's move one step further and then I'm going to stop there. In your mind, there's usually a movie, a series of images about that person that contribute to you wanting that person. Usually when someone falls in love, they're thinking of the person when they're not there. And so if they're not there, how are you thinking of them? Well, it's your thoughts. It's the images and movies you make in your mind. And you idealize things about this person that really are not true. Other times, they might even be true, but it's because you're seeing them in your mind's eye that you're feeling them, because they're not happening in front of you right now. So what's happening is that for you to feel that desire, that interest in someone, usually you're thinking about them in a very specific way, with a very beautiful mental movie of them that makes you want to be with them. And so if you want to stop wanting someone, that mental movie, those images must change. Because otherwise, as long as they're there, we're going to feel those things still. Because our thoughts, the images we see in our minds, the movies we make, they lead our emotions. To be more scientifically correct, they lead our feelings, our feeling of lust, of desire for another person. This movie needs to change. With everything I've said before up until now, this movie is already going to change. However, I want to give you one step more, something more you can do. And this next step has two sides to it. The first one is you're thinking about good things about this person, and you're usually omitting all the things, canceling all the things that are not as good. Things that you know about them that in your mind you're ignoring. You're not putting them into the movie. You're thinking of all the positive things that make you want to be with this person, and you're ignoring and canceling all those things that probably would make you not want to be with this person. You idealize someone in your mind, and this happens when a relationship ends, when someone doesn't want to be with you anymore. When you can't get over it, in your mind what you're thinking is that you still want that person. But the truth is you don't want the person that they're being now. You want the person that they were before. And that person, unfortunately for you, no longer exists. They're no longer available. Or maybe they aren't the person you thought they were. And as long as you keep thinking to yourself, that you want this person, you're stuck. And when you face the truth, which is, I want the images that I have in my mind of what I could have with this person if only they were the way I wanted them to be. So it's really in your mind, it's an illusion, because they're not that. You're falling in love, or you're still connected to an idea that is no longer true or that has never been true. Does it make sense? You are connected to the idea of what you could have in the future if they were like they were in the beginning when you met. However, they're not that person anymore. As long as you keep thinking that you could have that past person in the future with you, it's an illusion. You're building something that doesn't exist. When you face the facts and you go, how is this person treating me now? What are they showing me? You're going to quickly realize, I don't want this relationship. I'm stuck on another relationship that I've had once or that I wish I had with this person. And that maybe I will have with another person if only I realize that I'm not going to have it with this person. The message here is stop idealizing and fantasizing about this person in your mind about what it could be when really it's not. And you may think, well, but I'm so frustrated because that's not who they are with me, but maybe they are like that with someone else. Let me spare you the time. You don't know how they are with someone else. You just don't. Sometimes you wish you had someone else's life, someone else's relationship, because you have no idea what it's like. You think it's great because that's what you're fantasizing that you wanted to have with that person. But usually it's not. They're experiencing exactly the same as you, the negative parts of that person, and they're just moving along. They're just accepting it, settling. And that's a dangerous thing to do. So, number one, about this last topic I'm talking about, the movie in your mind, you're idealizing about someone that doesn't exist like that. Make sure you integrate in those images all the negative things. Even if you have to make an effort, because it's not that natural, because you're used to doing the opposite. So put in the negative things also. Really face the reality of who you're dealing with. Now, the second thing I want you to do, and this might be controversial, so bear with me until the end because you're going to understand why I'm suggesting it. This step is insult these people in your mind. Treat them badly in your mind. Do not give them that podium, that beautiful movie. Start insulting them so you start shifting that mental movie from a positive one to a more negative one. And before I move any forward, let me make a parenthesis. What I want you to do usually is for you to understand, be aware of what you learned from this person, the messages you can take for your life. I want you to thank this person for having shown you what you don't want anymore and what you want in the future. That's usually the process I want you to do. But if I begin there, you're going to be stuck probably with that positive mental movie and you're not detached enough, and it can take a while longer. And because now I want you to have a quick relief, it can be useful as a beginning strategy, as a strategy only for the beginning stages, to insult them in your mind. And you can insult them like they're so dumb that they cannot see what's right in front of them. They cannot see the potential of being with me. They are so traumatized by the past, so insecure about who they are, that they align with people that treat them wrong. They align with people that treat them like they think they should be treated, and so they must have a really low image of themselves. I pity them because they're really broken, sad, traumatized, dumb. I pity them. And when you hear me say this, once again, I have to state this. This is just a mental strategy. Because you're going to tell yourself stories, and usually what I see my clients do before they come to me is they give themselves stories like, I'm worth nothing. Look at that, even that person that is a dumbass is better than me. And all those mental stories are just bringing you down, and they're not the truth. They're just what you're saying inside your mind. And so in this beginning phase, say things that help you. Say things that can give you more emotional stability, more emotional distance. So then you can move on to the other part I was telling you, which is, okay, What have I learned from this? What are the good things that I was looking for in a person that I found in them that I can now find in someone else? What things did I learn? What things do I not want anymore? Those are all the next steps. However, for now, as brutal as it may seem, I found that this is what works best for my clients, for myself. That's what I found, which is to create this first dissociation, to create this first distance, to stop wanting them really, so then you can think more clearly. Usually we have to stop this beautiful mental video you have, or that we have. And so to do that, insult them repeatedly in the way I'm suggesting. Not, you don't need to mistreat them in your mind like, oh, they're the worst person on earth, because that's not true, otherwise you wouldn't like them. So be intelligent in the way you criticize them, like they're dumb, they couldn't see what's right in front of them, they're traumatized by the past, they probably are choosing this person over me because they, well, either they're insecure or maybe they think I'm out of their league, so they don't even try with me. Whatever it is. Use things that make you feel better so you can detach as you insult them, so you can change this negative mental video. And this is just the beginning strategy to create this distance, to stop wanting them. And of course, this is not something you do over messages. You're not texting them this. You're not saying this to other people. You can do it with a friend because they're just listening to you. You're thinking out loud. But you do this with yourself. It's a mental process. So you stop that beautiful video that is usually a lie. You stop it. You break it by repetition, by thinking different things, by insulting them in the way I just suggested. All of these are beginning steps you can take. And as I said before, I could talk about this for hours, days even, but this is a good foundation for you to start to operate from. Remember, what depends on you and what doesn't. What is under your control, what isn't. Number 2, make a decision, do not be in the middle. Number 3, it would be stupid to want someone that doesn't want me. It would be so stupid, remember that. And it is. And it doesn't make any sense. And then, number 4 and 5 are, your mind creates this beautiful mental movie and images of the best things about them that make you want to be with them. Remember, number 1, that's usually an illusion. You're stuck with things that are not true. Realize that. And even when they are true, the way you're projecting them is incomplete. You're not seeing all the negative parts that are also there. And number 5, only as a beginning strategy, if you need to, insult them in the way I suggested in your mind. So you can start changing this video, this positive mental video you have of them. You can start changing them by repeating these insults, by thinking differently. And this serves only as a strategy to detach from those intense positive emotions that you want to stop feeling. And that was the question for today. And remember, this is just an extreme strategy to use in the beginning if you want to, so you have a bit more mental space and you can change this movie. There are, of course, many other ways to change this movie. This is a simple one you can use that probably we're already doing. I want to give you permission to do it with the addendum that it's not a life strategy. You're not going to think about them like that forever because that's not healthy. It's just the beginning so you can separate from those emotions and then see things more clearly, more completely. And you're going to realize that they had great things and things that are not so great. That's the next step. Remember, as a final message with all these steps, the feelings take longer to change. So you say, okay, Bruno, I did all of that, but I'm still feeling. Yes, I know. You're still feeling it. Keep thinking. Keep practicing the mental discipline, the mental freedom. And after a while, your emotions, your feelings will follow. See you in the next one. Remember, leave comments, ask questions. Maybe we can use them in future one-question podcasts. And if you like my work, let me know. Follow me, like this podcast, and I'll see you soon.